Hi, I'm Sonia with ArtHash with Nicole Virgil from the Santa Barbara Contemporary Arts Forum. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
How are you?
Thank you for being here. I'm well, thanks.
I read that the Contemporary Arts Forum started with artists that kind of started like a grassroots movement. Can you tell me how it began?
Sure. I wasn't around, but in 1976 here in Santa Barbara, a group of local artists got together and they wanted to make sure there was space in town for them to show. And so it was sort of a collaborative back then of artists rotating, and I think they had a board of some kind. Over the years, however, it's morphed, and we moved into this space in 1990 when the mall was built. We're in Paseo Nuevo Mall. And as part of the requirements for building here, they had to have an art gallery and a theater. So we have a theater across the way, and the art gallery is here.
And they're
it's
connected?
changed. No, but they are both
Part of the
always
arts.
going to be here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is called the Upper Arts Terrace. And over the years, it's morphed into a more formal exhibition space.
Right.
Though we still do consider ourselves an alternative art space, but we do show artists locally, nationally, and internationally.
So is it you said it's regional as well as, and then
The artists.
yes.
Yeah.
And how is it a juried process or?
Yes, for the show that you're going to see now, this is our annual call for entries show. And so
Okay.
what happens is every fall we invite artists from the tri-counties, which is San Luis, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties, to apply. They provide images of their work, and then we have a jury who looks at the images. We get about 100, 120 people applying every year, and they choose 3 to 6 people to be in the show.
Okay.
The members of the jury last year were a curator from the Hammer, so we get people from out of town
To do the
as
jury.
well as an instructor from art school up north, and then a couple of local artists as well.
Okay. Well, can you tell us a little bit about the exhibit that you have right now?
Sure. Right now we're standing in front of work by Christine Morla, who is a working artist and art instructor from Oxnard, California, which is about 45 minutes south of here. And she is Filipino-American and learned a weaving technique from her dad, who was a professional weaver in the Philippines. She was born and raised in Oxnard, though, and she's really used that sort of cultural history and incorporated that into her work. So you can see the weaving pieces. And
Very textural.
there's a lot of different kinds of papers that she uses, all of it sort of repurposed. So there's like art, paint samples and contact paper and wallpaper, but originally and quite a bit still she uses wrappers from Filipino snack foods.
Wow,
She's
I
really
can see
trying,
The wording in there too.
to incorporate that part of her heritage into the works. So these pieces also speak directly to Oxnard's reputation and landscape in our local area. It has a reputation of being sort of a poor socioeconomic area and also sort of a conventional ag area, so a bit rural in parts. This is called Strawberry Fields, and this is called La Colonia Sky.
Okay.
And La Colonia is a neighborhood in Oxnard that is sort of like wrought with gang violence, but she's trying to change our perspective, and this is actually quite beautiful, as you can see. And then also the strawberry fields, when you're driving through the Oxnard area, can be a bit sort of geometric and boring, and you almost don't notice them really, but she's turned that on its head as well.
Yeah, I love the splashes of color.
Yeah.
Also, there's
This piece,
one
yeah.
over here that's just
white.
textural with a white
Yeah.
color palette. That's beautiful.
And this is called White Flight, which growing up in Oxnard, her neighborhood, she saw this, it was a very diverse neighborhood when she was younger, but as the decades went along, Caucasian families moved out as mostly Latino families moved in, and so she was just sort of inspired by that. So again, when she was speaking about this piece, she loves it. She thinks it's very beautiful, but it's not very interesting. It doesn't have a lot of layer of color or diversity. So
it's a lot more quiet than the other pieces as well. Can you talk about this artist as well?
Sure. So we're standing in front of a work by Shane Tolbert, and there are a few other people on the wall behind us. He is really interested in the sort of reductive process of using the canvas rather than adding paint to it, taking away. So what he does is he dyes the canvases with just dyes that are commercially made and available to him. And then he bleaches them using all kinds of different materials like squeegees and large paintbrushes and rags. You'll see, if you look over here actually, you can see he's even, drawn sort of structurally here. This is a little bit more organic and random. But again, he's inspired by fashion and music. And you can see the sort of psychedelic 1960s, 70s art scene on the West Coast. So he just graduated with his MFA from UCSB in June and is now just a working artist in town.
So he's local.
Yes, he is. Well, he's originally from Texas, actually.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
That's great. And I see that he's piecing the canvases all together, even the one in the front. Was that all one piece, or those were sewn together?
He sews them together. In fact, he gets canvas frames and then stretches the canvas himself once he's dyed them and bleached them. And so in that case, it's also very sculptural. You can see in this piece right here, even it kind of wraps around the edge, and he's very interested in making the paintings sculptures as well. And so, yeah.
And then he has those different textures of things too. Like this appears to be kind of a velvet.
Yeah. He's also, I think, when he was speaking about the work at our opening, interested in how the domesticity of fabric, of sewing, because he sews them all together himself, is sort of in conversation with this epic, sort of heroic scale that he uses.
Right. Yeah, they're very large scale pieces too. Yeah. It kind of confronts you just by the size of each piece.
Yeah.
I thought it was photography, but actually it's an oil painting.
Yes, yeah. The artist Laura Kripka is also an MFA student who just graduated from UCSB and is making art in the area. She is really inspired by obviously classical work. This piece depicts the most beautiful mortal on the planet who has been put to sleep for 30 years by Juno. But then Venus falls in love with him when she comes across him in the woods, and so just sort of the sort of she can have him and cannot have him at the same time, and sort of torture of that. She's also, in general, with her work, and there's some sculptures here and another piece over here, interested in the idealization and romanticization that we tend to do of our own history. So particularly she takes American Western history. You can kind of see Southern belles and even human relationship with nature is sort of idealized, but also exaggerated in a way that makes it sort of impossible to be real. These pieces actually are also music boxes, so you can turn them over.
Wow.
Yeah. And they'll turn.
I like how she has the sculptural pieces along with her paintings, and they tie in together. And
well, and the film is hers too. There's a stop motion film playing in this side gallery that is made up of her sculptures, repositioned to make a film.
So she does a lot of different kind of media
to
sort of make one body experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're just about to leave, and we got lucky with Shane Tolbert showing up. Can you tell us about the process and ideas of your work?
Certainly. I'm Shane. Nice to meet you. So this recent body of work, I refer to them as paintings, but there's actually no paint on them at all. I wanted to play with the conventions of painting, the idea of what a painting can be. So instead of starting out with this traditional additive process of applying pigment to a surface, I decided to start working with dyed fabric where there's already pigment in the fibers and figuring out solutions and ways to reactivate the pigment in the fiber and then push that around in an interesting way. So taking existing pigment that's already in the canvas and then creating a painting out of that.
Do you dye the fabrics yourself?
Some fabrics I dye if there's a specific color I need, but I like working with industrial fabrics because it's already this contemporary color choice, this idea of a ready-made, like these colors have been defined and it's part of the culture that we live in, so I can work off of that.
I was telling Natalie the difference also that I see with these is that it feels like they're almost illuminated from the back versus when you're stacking paint onto the front, you can, it's textural and you see it, but since it's reductive, you can feel that it's gone into the grain and it's illuminated.
Yeah, there's no skin, there's no surface covering something. It's a part of the fiber, so when light hits it, it absorbs it, and it does radiate more than just reflecting off of the top of, say, a painting.
Right. So does this body of work have a specific meaning, or was it just testing out different ideas with the canvas?
You know, if there's a specific meaning for the whole body of work, it's the idea that painting itself can be the subject just as much as the medium.
Right.
Individual works have really specific logics, but I play off of pop culture references and cultural references that I identify myself with from